Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, recording started. Okay, let's start. Okay, first of all, my name is Nikolai. I'm front-end developer. My primary skill is JavaScript. I write in a mobile application using JavaScript. And today we start from very beginning of JavaScript, and this lecture split it into two parts, and this is first part. Let's start. Just as Kuzinas, it's not me, it's author of this presentation. And we start a little bit from history. The middle of 19th, this is time of strong competition between browsers, especially between Netscape Navigator and Microsoft Internet Explorer. And in 1995, Brendan Eich created a JavaScript to help Netscape Navigator be more interactive for users. And firstly, this language was named as Mocha, then LiveScript, and then JavaScript. Microsoft responded to that and created its own language, call it as JScript. It's same language. In 1996, JavaScript submitted to ECMA International organization to be standardized. Now we can go to ECMA portal and download the standard, and here is it, more than 800 pages. And these standards describe to us what should do the programming language to be called as ECMAScript. Why is ECMAScript? Because JavaScript name is under trademark of Oracle. I think you know Oracle. This is a company that develop Java language, and it's also owned JavaScript trademark. Due to this reason, official name of JavaScript is ECMAScript. Okay, let's go next. Yeah, TC39, this is committee that's responsible to develop the JavaScript language. We can, this committee have official repository on GitHub. And here we can find ECMA to repository. And in this repository, this encapsulate all of development process of language. For example, if we have some idea, this idea should go through several steps. For example, on first step, this is idea discussed in community. On second step, community considers this is good, then draft, and on final step, this idea was included in a new JavaScript release. We can find all of the steps in ECMA 262 repository. For example, stage 1, proposals, and you can read some of new features that may be included in next releases. This is why I show you this repository, because this repository is one source of truth for JavaScript. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, JavaScript. We have several releases of JavaScript. But most important for us, I think, is JavaScript, ECMAScript 6, because this release bring a lot of new changes. And today, in general, we based our code on this standard. A little bit about JavaScript engines. You need to understand this that modern browsers is very complex application, consists from some modules. For example, browser have modules that render HTML page, and also have a special JavaScript engine that can convert text file with JavaScript to some actions. Most popular JavaScript engine for now is V8. This engine is developed by Google company, and he called it V8 because it's so powerful, like Deutsch V8 motors. You need to know that today we have some JavaScript engines, and these engines run JavaScript according to the ECMA standard, but behavior can be a little bit different, Okay, about JavaScript everywhere. First of all, JavaScript is basic programming language for web. We don't have any alternative on web for now. Node.js is a tool that can help us to create some server application using JavaScript. And on mobile side, we have a lot of frameworks that can help us run JavaScript on mobile side. For example, I write broad code on React Native. This is JavaScript library for mobile development, and we have some tools that can that allow us to run JavaScript on desktop. For example, Electron. And the main benefit that we get from this is that we can run one code and run it everywhere. Call it cross-platform development. JavaScript frameworks. On these steps, you should know that big projects do not write in on pure JavaScript. All big projects use some frameworks, for example, React or Angular, because these frameworks already encapsulate some solution that can help us to develop fast and stable without some basic errors and some basic bad approaches. When you complete JavaScript learning, next step for you is learn of one of frameworks. I think React or Angular, because it's most popular today. Okay, let's continue with technical stuff. Main point here is that JavaScript read file like a human. JavaScript read code from top to bottom and each row from left to right, and execute code step by step. Simplest example to run JavaScript on your machine, if you want to experiment with that, is to create some HTML page some simple HTML page and JavaScript file with JavaScript code, and using script tag, connect this JavaScript file to your HTML page. And after that, when you run this HTML page, JavaScript executed immediately. But alternative way, if you want to try something on JavaScript, it's my favorite way. You can run developer tools. Second button, click on any web page. In the bottom of list, you can see inspect option. You can open this, call it as developer tools of Chrome. At the top of these developer tools, you can see tab navigator. You can choose console. And you can see command line interface for JavaScript. For example, I can write here 2 + 2, and JavaScript calculate me the result. This is clear button for console. This is very useful because from my experience, I can say that create some experiments with, if you don't understand how some expression works, you can create some experiments and try it in console. It's much more faster than check documentation and try to find answer in documentation. What about documentation? I can recommend you two resources about JavaScript. First of all, this is JavaScript info. This is a very good web portal because from one side it covers all themes in JavaScript, and from other sides, this is this web resource written on very simple language. Another source is Mozilla Developer Network, MDN. This is also a good resource, but pages on this resource are much more like a documentation, not like a story. Okay, let's share with you some links to chat. Yeah. Okay, let's, if you want to ask something, please write to chat. I think this is a good approach. I will take a break and read your questions. And first question, what is the source of this data? Yeah, I sent you a link. The source of this data is JavaScript info. Presentation and the Mozilla Developer Network. I haven't seen such difference between React and Algorithmic usage anywhere. I think we can skip this question for now because we talk about JavaScript basics, and to understand the difference between React and Angular, we need to some base knowledge of JavaScript. We will do coding together for better understanding. On this, I think on this a little bit on this lecture and more on the second part, because on this lecture we will try to understand the basic basic literals, basic language features. Why was JavaScript named JavaScript in the first place if Oracle have framework? I don't know. I don't know, but for now, JavaScript is commonly used. And it's more simple to call it JavaScript for regular developers. Okay, let's continue. Okay, about syntaxes. Yeah, first of all, about white spaces and about line breaks. JavaScript ignore white spaces and line breaks. You can write it anywhere, but you need to understand when you become a developer, you will go to some team to develop some product, and you need to follow team style guides. You will have to write code as your teammates to be on the same page. JavaScript is case sensitive language, and in this example, it's two different constants. Be careful. Okay, about literals. It's a very interesting term. I will switch to console and try to explain it. In JavaScript, we have some special functionality to create something. For example, I can write a new object, and create new object. This is class embedded into JavaScript. Or I can write new string and create string. But we have another approach to do this. For example, I can write curly braces and I create object in the same way. Or I can write, I don't know how to call these symbols on English. Sorry, guys. And we can create a string. When I write curly braces, I ask JavaScript to create an object. You should understand that this is not an object. This is object literal. This is how I ask to JavaScript to create something. And it's about all of these cases. When I write 5, I ask JavaScript, please create me a number with value 5. And another point about this example that all of this value disappear immediately, because also like this, because when I create object, I need to put it in some variable to use it in future. If I do not do it, I lose my data. To use my object, I need to create some variable, for example, constant test, and put this created object into the test variable. Okay, let's go next. I think this is simple. When I write 5, I create 5. When I write test, I create string test. When I write true, I create Boolean value. I think you know this Boolean, this value can be true or false. These braces create array, and curly braces create an object. Okay, do you have some questions here?
No.
Thank you. About var and let, we talk about a little bit on next slide. We will talk about var, let, and const. Okay, identifiers. Identifiers. This is words, regular words, but these words used to identify some function name or variable name, etc. And we have some reserved words in JavaScript. These words use JavaScript for internal purpose. For example, we cannot create function with name function. I think it's very easy to understand. If not, please write a comment. Okay, let's go next. Comments. JavaScript allow us to write comments, and it's very useful. We can write a single line comment in same way, or multi-line comment in same way. You need to open it and close when you finish. When you write comments, you need to get a balance between lack of comments and a lot of comments. For example, I think you need to write some comment if you feel that another developer will not understand what happened in code. This is a brilliant moment to write something for next developer. On another side, if you write a lot of comments, it's a signal that your code enough complex, and you need to simplify it or split to several modules. Okay, semicolons. About semicolons, JavaScript allow us to not use semicolons in the end of line, but in JavaScript contains some cases when lack of semicolons can create different behavior that you expected. And in most of projects that are involved, we always use semicolon to show JavaScript that we finish our expression, and on next line we start new expression to keep our code clear as possible. But if you forget about semicolon, it's okay. Okay, let's continue with variables. Today, we have two ways how we can create some variable. First of all, we need to write some special word that show JavaScript that we want to create variable. Two types of words, const and let. Then we write name of a new variable, and then we put in this variable some value. What difference between const and let? Const from word constant, and when you create this constant, you cannot override it inside your code on next modulus. Otherwise, let allow you to override variable as often as you want. These constants have two benefits between let. From code perspective, you cannot override some variable of another programmer on your project, and it's very helpful. On other side, constants allow us to use memory of computer is much more efficient instead of let, because when you define constants, we already know size of your value, and we can put constants in one part of memory without any gaps. When you operate with let variable, JavaScript should control where to place this variable, because on another step you can put here a much more bigger value, and JavaScript will need to move this variable from one part of memory to another part. And usage of constants is much more efficient for memory. Yeah, and main rule for you on beginnings, on first step of JavaScript learning is use constants everywhere if it's possible, and only use let variables if you want to override it. Yeah, this is just example. If you try to assign new value to variable a, you will get the typer assignment to constant variable. But with let variable, we can override it without any restriction. Okay, any questions? Quotation mark, thank you. Yeah, about cases, camel case, snake case, etc. All projects have some internal style guide how to write code. It can be written in documentation of project, or can be shared between members of project without any documents. And when you go to project, you need to follow these team style guides. And I don't have answer to this question, what's better, camel case or snake case? Use your colleagues. This is better answer. 99% of JS code use camel case. I agree with you. I always see only camel case in all of JavaScript. Yeah, about differences between this time for discuss about differences between let and var. Yes, it's correct. Var is older version, and let and const come to our code from 2015, from ECMA 6 standard, and bring to us some features. First of all, this is efficient use of memory. If we talk about const, because var looks like let, it allows us to override values. And first of all, constants, we can effectively use memory. Second, we cannot override constant. var don't have this functionality. And another, another feature, yeah, it's block scoped. For example, var have scope of function, but let and const have scope of block, and block is curly braces. You can see that I get the error because E is not defined, because I define E inside the block, and outside this block, E is not defined. We can try another example with var here, and you look that var, I can use var outside the block, but not outside the function. I can create same example, but with function. Oops. Oh, I know, error because var already defined in previous example. Let's change name of constant or of variable. For example, var q. Yeah, and q is not defined because it's defined in scope of function. But on modern JavaScript, we use only let and const. Forget about vars. Yeah, about declaration, constants can be declared in time of creation. But let you can initialize this value a little bit later. Why? Because when you create some variable, by default, he can contain special undefined value. A variable a in this example be undefined on step 1. And only on step 2, undefined value will be overwritten with null. And it's impossible with constants because constants cannot be overwritten. If we create constants a, it will be undefined forever. Okay, little bit about comma. Comma is a very interesting symbol that can ask to run several operations in one time. For example, in this example, we can create several constants with one special word, const. Usage of this operator depends on style guides of your future project. On one project it can be allowed, but on same it can be restricted. Okay. It's about var we already discussed. Okay, let's go to types. JavaScript is a loosely typed language. What does it mean? That means when you create some variable, no need to indicate what type of this variable. JavaScript define types automatically and allow us to use one variable with different types. In this example, on first step, we create a string variable, and on second step, we can override it with number. And it's okay for JavaScript. But it's not okay for big projects. And on big projects, we use special tools to add types to JavaScript. For example, Flow library or TypeScript. On TypeScript, I need to write type of variable each time when I create variable, because typization can help us to avoid some dummy errors when you wait for string and obtain number and your application is crashed. This is very simple errors, and typization help us to avoid them. Yeah, JavaScript contains two type of types, two main kind of types: primitives and object types. What about primitive? This is very simple. This is number, this is string, boolean. Two special values is null and undefined, symbol and begin. We skip for now. Object type is all objects in JavaScript. First of all, number. It's all numbers in JavaScript. Include some special numbers, for example, infinity. Strings. This is all between waters. Zero symbols. This is empty strings. It's also string. Boolean. It's very simple. Boolean type can be true or false. Null. Can be only one value. This is null. And undefined also can be only one value, is undefined. This is special JavaScript types. And now show you that variable is empty, and undefined show you that no value at all. Okay, a little bit about undefined. JavaScript have I don't say have one rule at all: don't break the web. When engineers develop JavaScript language features, he follows this rule: don't break the web. And this is very good because we can run all websites written in 19th, and it should work as a previous. But on other sides, if we create some error in code, it will be frozen in code forever. And this is about undefined. I hear that this type is created by mistake, because JavaScript created just for bring some interactivity to browser and not for serious projects. And for now, we can see undefined type in our code. Okay, let's see how it's look like. Here we define some variables, and on next step we use special JavaScript special word typeof that can return to us type of variable. Let's go one by one. On first example, we do not assign some value to variable, and its type is undefined. On second, string. I think it's simple. Third example is number. I think simple too. True, false. This is Boolean. And step 5, null. This is object. Please do not confuse. This is how typeof works. type of return object on null. I don't know, maybe it's another error in language. I don't know, but it works like this. Let's say show you one interesting library. Some basic functionality, some basic tasks in JavaScript during years of development are extracted to special libraries. For example, commonly used lodash library. This library provides for us a lot of functions that simplify our development. And for example, we have a set of functions to define which type of variable. And here we can find function is none. Oh, sorry, is null. And this function return correct answer, what type of this variable. Okay. Yeah, why we call these types as primitive? We call it because from memory point of view, it's saved as is. If we create variable age 55, 55 will be converted to binary code and put it in memory as 55. But another story with objects. When we create an object, JavaScript allocate special memory area, create object, and return to us a link to this area and call it reference. And when we use object in code, we use reference to this object in memory, not object as is, just reference. I can show you some example later. Okay, about expressions. Expression is a piece of code, some operation of code that can be run. For example, when you create some Boolean literal, this is also expression. When you try to do something with this, it's also expression. Alert create some pop-up on top of screen. If you don't know, let's try. Alert. This is embedded functionality to browser, not in JavaScript. This is very important. You need to understand when JavaScript engine will be embedded to browser. Browser provide for this engine some functionality. This call as browser API. For example, I can write alert and see pop-up in top of the screen. This is browser functionality, not a JavaScript, and some other functions. Okay, some of arithmetic expressions. We can use operation like in mathematics. It's very simple. And in these expressions, we can use some variables. And we can create expressions with a lot of variables. Okay, maybe we have some questions here. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, correct. Const is scoped by block as well as lab. It's correct answer. It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. No problem with that. No, infinity. This is special special number. This is also number, but it's infinity. And infinity highest value of all. And minus infinity lowest value of all numbers. Does JS have references pointers? Yes, but it's under the hood. We do not have any tools to use it. Nobody knows. It's JS bug, maybe. Please write code in VS Code. Yeah, this is important. We have some, yeah, if we have different symbols, we have some ways to do this that I show you in VS Code if you want. Oops. Okay. Single quotes. Yeah, we can combine different type of watermarks, for example, but maybe it's not so useful. In other case, we can use synchronization. We can write here. Or we have another type of waters. Type here. Is number 64-bit double? If then what can I use for 64-bit integer? As I remember, yes, number is 64-bit double with floating point, and yeah, we have some limitation. JavaScript have maximum and minimum number value, but if your operation return something bigger than the maximum value, you get the infinity special value. If then, what can I use? 64-bit integers. I don't know. In my practice, I do not faced with that task. I don't know, but I think yes, maybe some approaches. Yeah, begin. Yeah, correct. But I don't use it in my practice for now. Okay, let's continue. Discussion in chat is much more complex than on our presentation. Let's continue. Yeah, because JavaScript lose the type language type. Some operation can behave differently, depends on type of arguments. For example, plus sign, if we try to add two numbers, it calculate numbers. But if we try to add one string to another, it works as a concat function and create a big string from arguments. Logical expressions. 2 and %, it's like logical AND, and two vertical line is like logical OR, and we can combine this operation, and I don't know some words in English, sorry. Okay, this negation, this revert your value from true to false. Okay, and assignment operator, this also operators means that we put something into value, into variable, sorry. Okay, we already talked about addition operator. We can add numbers and strings. Division operator, yeah, numbers can be with dot. It's okay for JavaScript, and when we try to divide by null, we get the infinity. But we can use infinity in our next expressions, and infinity be highest of the all numbers. Reminder operator, this %sign. Okay, and another special value is nan. If you perform some incorrect operation, you return special number value is not a number. Multiplication, I see it's very simple. Exponentation operator. Precedent rulers. If you see this complex expression, you have two ways to solve it. First of all, you can split it into parts and try to run it in developer tools, or you can go to documentation and inside MDM documentation, we can find this page, operator precedence, and from the documents, only you should know that all of operation have special weight, and when JavaScript start to parse some expression, he see what operation have highest weight and run it in first time. You can see all of JavaScript operations here. And if you want, we can try to solve it with documentation. First of all, let's find equality sign. And the equality sign have a weight 3. Let's find multiply by 15. And you should understand that JavaScript try to calculate, try to multiply first, then then save result to variable plus sign. 14. Addition will be calculated after multiplication, but see difference between plus sign between two variables and before one variable. It's different operations in JavaScript. Okay. In the same way, you can find all of weights and 100% understand what's happening here. But if you write a code, you can help yourself with braces. For example, if you can put braces to 100% know what should happen first. It's very useful. Okay, skip. Comparison. It's also interesting theme in JavaScript because result of comparison depends of type of values that we put in comparison. Again, JavaScript do not have types, and in this situation, value will be converted to appropriate type before it will be compared. Okay, result of any comparison is true or false, more or not. Simple. A little bit about type conversion on JavaScript and 4. We have a brilliant page with type conversion. I recommend you to learn it because type conversion, this is main hardest point of JavaScript, because sometimes JavaScript convert your value into some other type, and you can lose understanding of how it works. It's easy to understand, explain what's happening here. For example, alert function. Alert function can show you only string, and even if you pass to here some number, its number will convert to string on the fly, and we will see string 5, not a number. And same with other stuff, the other values. Yeah, comparison, this is a regular expression, and result of this expression can be put it in variable. Equality operators. Regular check for equality. Here we need to define difference between regular check of equality and strict check of equality. Main difference: strict check of equality firstly check type of values, and only if type of both values are the same, it will be compare values. I recommend to use only strict equality if it's possible. And okay, Let's go next. Yeah, here example false, because this is string and this is boolean. Conditions, conditional operators. This is like in all of languages in the world. Java, C# and others have some conditional expressions, and conditional expressions allow us to define in which way JavaScript will execute our code. To create conditional block, we need to write if inside braces we need to put some expression that will be calculated, and depends of result of this expression, JavaScript define is it to execute first block of code or second block of code. Here we can put any expression, but it's very important that result of this expression will be converted to true or false, to Boolean value, because we have to choose of only two options, first block or second block, true or false. And this is a little bit tricky because type conversion. I share a link with you. For example, if we calculate this value, this expression, result will be 0, and 0 automatically will be converted to false, and JavaScript goes through second block. This is very confusing from start, but if you go through this page that I share with you, it will be simple for you. We have simple rule, and it sounds like all intuitively empty values are false. For example, 0 or empty string or null. Because you feel it's empty, it will be converted to false. This is simple rule, but it's very helpful. Okay, let's go through examples. Numbers 20. It's not intuitively empty. It's contains something, some number, and it will be converted to true. And we go through curly braces. Comparison between age and number. Age can contain 20 more than 18. Codes run here. Age and number again, but 20 not less than 20. It's equal. Code doesn't try here. Has job. Has job is Boolean value false. Ignores this block of code. And street. Street is empty string, as I say before. This is intuitively empty, and it will be converted to false. Okay, some examples here, but I think we can skip it. Oh, okay, link to JavaScript info portal. Thanks for, okay. And now I continue with the questions. Oh, sorry, but I don't understand what you want here and here. Please explain if you have a question. In JS, is there any clean code tips? That's a very interesting question. I think it's common for all languages. Let's say talk about comments. You can write some appropriate amount of comments and create some small readable functions that can easily be tested. This is general tips. I don't know. But if we will talk about architectural approach to create big projects, I recommend you to use some framework, for example, React. React from the box allow you to create a big, scalable, and stable application without any tips. A none is not equal to none. Yes, correct, but I don't have an answer why. Is it? But yes, none is not equal to none. And this is way how we can test some value to none. If we have constant a with value none on board, on some expression, we can compare a with a, and if this expression return false, we 100% know that inside a we have none value. In JavaScript, we have one rule. If you pretty good to understand JavaScript core, JavaScript basics, it's very easy to you to learn some framework. I strongly not recommend to learn React without good JavaScript knowledge. I use Mac for one point because I'm a mobile developer, and it's no way to develop for iOS devices without Mac. Okay, thank you for your attention. And on next lecture, in Tuesday, we will deep dive in JavaScript and see some JavaScript functions and how to work with it. Oh, thank you for you too.